I started doing political campaigns and volunteering in issue advocacy when I was 12.
Wow.
I spent 6 years working in political advocacy, getting to do things like going to the White House for community leader briefings and meeting the First Lady and the President and being invited for things like that. And one of the things I'll say is when you grow up, a young, ambitious Black girl in a really conservative area that doesn't quite know where you fit and doesn't know what to do with you, you kind of tend to maybe get a little bit shy, or you stand back and you're like, I don't want to make any waves. And I was so different because I would be so celebrated for my differences and the directions I decided to take. And my mother, to give her credit, never ever limited me based on my gender, my age, those or the color of my skin.
Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
All right, that is me, Jimmy Honachik, and we are here with an episode I can't wait for. I'm so excited. I've wanted to have you on the podcast basically since I met you, and we finally have the opportunity. Amresse Farrow, you do so much. You are so much fun to be around. This is going to be an incredible episode, so thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. First
off, let's talk about you. Where did you come from? How did you get here? And then there's a million directions I want to take this in. So give me a little background on Amresse.
Okay, well, Amresse came from here. I'm from Pennsylvania. I've spent my entire life here, and I'm very grateful and proud to say that. So I was born and raised in the Carbon County area, so just right above the Lehigh Valley.
Thank you for my geographical tutorial earlier.
I wasn't going to tell anyone that you didn't know anything about Pennsylvania.
Oh, I know Pennsylvania. You just don't know geography, all right? It's not my strong suit.
I'm just kidding. So I was raised by a single mother, born to the most amazing women in the world. But my mom, Elizabeth Farrow, she's incredible, smart, beautiful, and just an absolutely dedicated servant to my education and my life experiences. So she was a young woman, a single mom, and student going to school for becoming a nurse, and she had me. And so I really got the experience of seeing what it's like to be raised by a hardworking person, to be raised by a woman, and to be raised in the healthcare field, and all of these things kind of shaped my experience. So my mom went to school full-time, raised me full-time, and worked full-time.
Oh my God.
She never got to sleep. Just absolutely amazing. So I had a strong support from my family to kind of back her up in that. So I would say that, like, how do I describe it? I would say that my mother really was the catalyst in who I am today. Mm-hmm. My mother became an RN in labor and delivery, and the best RN in labor and delivery they had up until the pandemic when Easton Hospital closed. Mm-hmm. She was their best RN in labor and delivery for 15, 20 years before that. And I grew up spending a lot of time here. So while I was raised in Carbon County, I was actually raised in Easton Hospital. I spent 1 to 3 nights a week in a maternity ward, sleeping in a hospital bed.
Wow.
My mother was one of the best nurses that they had, and they would sneak me into the hospital because they would say, well, if you want me, you get my daughter. And so they would sneak me into labor and delivery room 7 in Easton Hospital, and I would sleep there 1, 2, 3 nights a week. And it was just such an interesting experience.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. So being around healthcare workers, getting to see that internal lifestyle of what that looks like, and seeing how much first responders work to take care of people, and kind of demystifying healthcare in a really beautiful way that made it not scary, but kind of made you excited about that innovation portion.
Yeah.
So grew up seeing how hard women and nurses and doctors and all of my families in the healthcare field, seeing how hard they work. So that really shaped my experiences quite a lot, and made me value $1, because I saw my mom worked for everything, and she was very transparent.
Yeah.
We went from having absolutely nothing when I was having my childhood to her buying a house and building us this beautiful life filled with vacations and nice educational opportunities. And every time I wanted something growing up, I remembered my mom wouldn't shield me from the financials. It wasn't my burden, but she would be honest. I would say, I really want to do the 9th grade class ski trip. And I know I didn't tell you, but it's in like a week, and it's an extra $1,000 for us to go to Vermont for the weekend. As a single parent, you try to budget, and those types of costs can be a lot. But my mom would be like, okay, to be able to do that, I have to work hard, and I'm going to pick up 2 extra shifts.
Yeah.
And so that if you want to do that, that means that you have to come to the hospital with me this weekend. Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, I love the hospital. And so I kind of got to see how hard she worked for everything, and never felt bad about it. But she was like, I want you to feel so empowered that if you want something, you can work a bit harder and you can go get that, and you can do a little bit more. And that shaping helped me quite a lot.
I was going to say, let's talk about that, because you exude self-confidence. And I think, and I've talked to a lot of people about that, and I don't think everyone always feels that, but you certainly do. And some degree of that must come from your mom. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Absolutely. My mom was always like the most limitless person. She was like, you can be anything that you want to be, except a rocket. When I was 5 years old, she took me to Radio City Music Hall and Christmas, and I saw the whole Nutcracker, and I leaned over and I was like, this is what I want to be.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you can't do this. We put you in dance. You weren't very good at it. Other than that, you can be anything you want to be. And that meant that I wasn't limited by anything specific. And I would say that the confidence that I have comes from having this really interesting experience where I was celebrated for my differences rather than put down for them. And when I was younger, I was very education oriented. We're going to talk about the library.
Yes.
Because I was raised by a single mother, if I was not at the hospital with my mom, I was at the library all the time. In fact, I didn't really go to lunch. I spent 8 years, 5th grade through 12th grade, in the library every single day during free period and lunch, sitting with the librarian. So education was really important to me. I started doing political campaigns and volunteering in issue advocacy when I was 12.
Wow.
I spent 6 years working in political advocacy, getting to do things like going to the White House for community leader briefings and meeting the First Lady and the President and being invited for things like that. And one of the things I'll say is when you grow up, a young, ambitious Black girl in a really conservative area that doesn't quite know where you fit and doesn't know what to do with you, you kind of tend to maybe get a little bit shy, or you stand back and you're like, I don't want to make any waves. And I was so different because I would be so celebrated for my differences and the directions I decided to take. And my mother, to give her credit, never ever limited me based on my gender, my age, or the color of my skin. And I would say age is the biggest thing. Like people say to me all the time, growing up as the only Black girl in your entire school, what was that like? And of course I have my experiences and stories and perspectives, but I would say I was often the youngest person in the room. Not only was I the only Black woman in the room, but I was the youngest person. I'd walk in and I would have to figure out how to be professional and still age appropriate in a space in that age demographic. So at 12 years old, I started working on political campaigns. My mother was not a part of it. She was not disinterested, but she was like, go do whatever you like. Have fun. I will support you in any way that you would like.
So activism wasn't part of her background. This came right from you.
No, not at all. I watched the movie Recount by Bob Balaban about the 2000 election. Found it fascinating. I found all of it I was 11 years old. I found it so fascinating. I said, Mom, I really want to get involved in, political campaigns and issue advocacy and helping small businesses and everything. And I said, what do I do? I kind of wanted to be told what my opinion was and what political party we were and everything. And she was like, no, you have to do your own research. You have to decide what you are and what you believe in. And then you have to go out and do that. And I was like, I really like working in this work. She was like, I will provide you with a ride.
Yeah.
And your cover if you need to pay for anything. And she was not a part of it. She allowed me to be an adult, and she did not infantize me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was 12 years old and then 13, by 13, I was an office manager of our local election center.
We had very different teenage years.
I was an office manager at our local election center. I was one of 2 data coordinators, and I was our head volunteer coordinator. So I was working 5 to 6 days a week. During the school year, I would work from 3:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And on Saturdays, I'd come in at 9 a.m. and I'd lead the volunteer trainings. I'd have 50, 60-year-olds that would come in and want to learn about all of it. And I would lead the full trainings.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would lead the canvases on Sundays.
Wow.
And I absolutely loved it. I loved the connection. I loved being able to help people. I loved serving a purpose. And after about 13, when I hit 14, that's when it started going from a local level to a state and national level.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant traveling more.
Yeah.
And, when anybody else would have to ask their mom if they could stay out an extra 10 minutes to go to McDonald's with their friends, I was saying things like, can I have your credit card to go to DC with some strangers this weekend? My mom would vet the situation, of course, for safety. But I'd say, Mom, and I would be like 14, 15. I was invited for a community leaders briefing at the White House. I have a partner, another girl I'm going to go with. She's 25. Can you help me get my passport? And then I'm going to need money for a hotel for the next 4 days. I'm sorry, I don't have any +1s. So you can't come with me. I have a private tour of the White House myself. I'm sorry, Mom. And my mom would be like, all right, as long as all of it's safe, she'd call the people, make sure it's safe. I'd get her credit card. She's like, you can't leave the hotel room. And I would go on my own to DC. And I started making friends that live in DC, and I started making friends online. And even before it was really popular, I started making friends online. I think that even though we didn't have a lot growing up in this kind of partners together, even though we didn't have a lot growing up, my mom spent every dime she could on one of 2 things, travel and food. She wanted me to have every bit of culture every single day. If she couldn't take me to travel, she wanted me to experience that and the tastes in my mouth, because she felt that food told a story.
Mm-hmm.
And then traveling. Any dime she had went towards saving towards taking me to other places and showing me what the world is beyond a small town, and making me appreciate different walks of life. And so that was a huge part of my life, because when I would start traveling, I would go on cruises, I would go to Florida, I would go wherever it was. I would always make friends on every trip. And at the end of the trip, I would go to say, bye, it was nice meeting you. And my mom was like, no, you get their contact information. That is your friend.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but they live all the way across the country. She's like, that doesn't matter. When you go to meet someone, whether it's a business contact or a networking opportunity or a good friend, you nurture that relationship. And there's no reason, even if you're 12 years old, for you to not nurture these friendships. And so she supported that. So when I kind of understood the networking portion, because I was so encouraged in my personal life to maintain relationships appropriately and to build on them and grow them, no matter what the distance, or if I didn't have a car, or if I was a bit younger. And from that, I have amazing friends to this day that I met 15, 20 years ago as a child on a cruise ship. And so then when I would be out doing my issue advocacy work, I would meet young women and young men, and I would make friends with them and connect with them. And I would meet a young girl and say, she's like, oh, my parents have a place in DC. Would you like to come stay with us? Spend the entire weekend going to meet Michelle Obama together and having a private meeting with her. And my mom was not on any of these trips. She vetted the entire itinerary to make sure it was safe.
Yeah.
She knew my route. She always had a person in every single city that was ready to collect me should an emergency happen.
Yeah.
And that just kind of made me be like, the sky's the limit. I can go off and meet the president today, then go to prom the next day, then be doing a volunteer voter registration drive at the school the next day.
Can we stop for a second? I'm just blown away when we go. You know how like the tip of the iceberg, and then the whole there's like a city below the sea level right now that I'm learning about.
Talk a lot. Don't shut me up.
No, it's incredibly fascinating. I shouldn't even be talking right now. Like, this airtime is wasted airtime. But I know you we serve on the Bethlehem Chamber together, and I see you in meetings, and you're clearly intelligent, and you put incredible videos out there on whether it's TikTok or Instagram. Anyone who doesn't follow you should follow you right away. But like, that was it. That's the surface. That's what I knew. I had no idea about any of this, and I'm blown away right now. So I don't even know where to focus myself. But it's incredible that you had just that level of autonomy and confidence from such a young age and were able to do so much. What brought you back, right? So, you traveled, you saw the world, you tasted the different stories, you went to DC and you were involved in activism. What brought you back home?
Yes, absolutely. So kind of that trajectory after college was, where do I want to go? Do I want to continue in the issue?
You could go anywhere is where I'm in my head right now.
Yes, absolutely. Do I want to continue with the issue advocacy? Do I want to continue working on political campaigns? I realized that the community aspect, which is so interesting, and I love Ashley Russo. I was listening to the podcast earlier and how much she was saying that the volunteerism and that community work drives so much of her work. And I can definitely agree with that. And I would say that the portion of those 6 years that I spent, which was really the start of my career, those were paid jobs too, paid and unpaid jobs. I realized that I loved not being paid for the work because I loved the work that I did that was out of the good of my own heart. And I wanted to do something else, but figure out how to not lose that portion and weave it into the fabric of whatever I do. So I knew that having a community aspect, working with small businesses, I knew that was always going to be in what I did. I ended up going to school. I went to L-Tri-C and I went to Westchester. I studied communications.
Communications major, high five.
That's right.
Oh, one of the best.
Throughout that time, and this is so important, I think, for me to say, people are like, I love the Valley, but did you ever get the chance to leave? And I did. And it was very important for me to leave, especially when you grow up in a small town, even smaller than the Valley. You want the opportunity to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
I moved to Florida. I did the Disney College program. And I went to Disney University.
Go and tell me about it. What is it?
Yeah, a lot of people think it means you're being a character or Mickey Mouse or something like that. No, there's a billion positions. Disney College program, and I recommend it to absolutely everyone and their children.
Yeah.
It looks amazing on a resume. Looks amazing to an ATS software. It will immediately get you to the top of the list for a job interview. But basically, you can apply to the Disney College program. You go to school there, part-time or full-time, and you work there. And then you can also take certifications and learn about advanced certifications.
Right.
So you could do anything from hospitality to customer service, communications. And then there are more advanced internships that have to do with social media, communications, graphic design, sports, and everything like that. So that experience was unbeatable.
Yeah.
It was incredible. That was really amazing. And I can help anyone get in if you want, because I help a lot of kids get in.
Yeah.
And I mentor the kids at some of the colleges locally.
Wow.
So I went and did that. And then I did social media part-time. I worked full-time, but I did social media part-time. And I taught kayaking, paddleboarding, sailing, and snorkeling in the Florida Keys.
Is there anything you haven't done, like, honestly, at this point?
Not all of the volunteer work I did throughout high school was paid. Some of it was unpaid.
Right.
So I still needed to make a few dollars.
Yes.
So I was a milkmaid throughout high school.
Get out.
Yeah.
What is
on
it?
farms. I worked on a farm.
Milking cows, or what does the milkmaid do?
A Troxel's farm. Many people know it around here.
Yeah.
I was a milkmaid. We did about 250 cows per shift.
Yeah.
And you get all of the cows together, you corral them, and you clean off all of their udders and you milk them.
Wow.
We used a milking technology system.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, while they are being milked, you get to feed the babies and the newborns. Wow. And then you do the farm chores. So I'm a farm girl. I love the outdoors. I love animals. I love farm. I love dressing up, and I can get down and dirty and do like hard manual labor. I'm very strong. Yeah. So I love that kind of thing.
Truly, I'm blown away. I'm going to say that over and over again. Okay. So you did Disney.
So I did Disney. I worked for the Boy Scouts. So Disney was one thing. And then doing social media part-time. I should say that Disney was one thing. It was an amazing experience. I came back home after that because it's only like a 6 to 12 month kind of internship. Yeah. Came back home and went back to school. All my friends found out, got all of my friends in the program. Then they went down. And then I did the Boy Scouts. So the Boy Scouts have a high adventure sea base in the Florida Keys right by Key West. Yeah. So I lived in Key West and I taught I taught kayaking, paddleboarding, sailing, and snorkeling. Learned a lot about marine life. Hung out with dolphins and manatees all day long.
Yeah.
Literally all day. They were with us. And then I did social media with them and helped them. The Boy Scouts had never had a Snapchat campaign for that before. I built their first ever Snapchat campaign and grew that. Wow. Grew them, doubled their Instagram following. So really learned how to do that. Because that was the first time I'd ever worked with a national organization, a nonprofit, where I had to adhere to such strict guidelines in terms of social media and marketing, and really adhering to a very strong brand.
Yeah.
In the past, I was just making a brand kit kind of on the fly. That was a really great experience.
Yeah.
And so I had that opportunity to leave, and I still was like, I want to go back home. It wasn't just because I missed my family. I loved the opportunity to travel, but I started to see the Lehigh Valley is pretty great. There's a lot of opportunity. So came back home, and I knew that I wanted to help people, but I also knew I wanted to not be able to stop talking. So I decided communications and marketing was the best place to go. I had studied communications. It was right along the line of everything I had been working in for the past 6-7 years before that. So I was like, communications, marketing. So I would say that my skill sets are really in communications, marketing, business development, and digital marketing and technology. So whether that's web development, digital marketing, setting up your full tech stack, community organizing and community partnerships, scaling your organization digitally and in person, and the communications and social media aspect. I love all of those things. And that's how I've been spending the past 5, 6, 7 years freelancing. Worked as a project manager for 3 years for a private organization. Went with the breastfeeding shop, been a freelancer for several years, and now I have Logical Leap and the Bethlehem Area Public Library.
Yes, and these are supposed to be 30-minute episodes. I want to go for like 4 hours right now. There are 3 things I definitely want to hit, and you kind of touched on all of them right there. So let's talk about the library.
Yeah.
How'd you get involved there? Clearly, you've loved libraries growing up. And what do you do at the library?
So right now I am the Director of Marketing and Development for the Bethlehem Area Public Library and all 5 of their branches. In 2019, I was freelancing with the library and I helped them create a music video called I Like Being Loud at the Library.
Can I find it on YouTube?
Yes, you can.
Perfect.
Sorry, it's early work.
Okay.
But the goal of it was to kind of make a cheeky light of the fact that we're always shushing people in libraries. So we only have one specific space where you have to be quiet in our library.
Okay.
You can be as loud as you want. In fact, I have a public use recording studio at our library.
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to 6 days a week can come in and lay down professional tracks and equipment and everything.
That's incredible.
So my goal of working at the library, and I have my job description, but my heart and my goal is that I came on, realized that there was this laundry list of resources from business development and events and financial courses and sometimes hot meals, addressing food insecurity, having a public use recording studio. It's a long list that goes beyond a room full of books.
Yeah.
And we have 5 branches. And I realized that the community didn't know. Nobody knows. The small businesses, the nonprofits, nobody knows about us. We serve 125,000 residents and growing.
Yeah.
And so my goal, in addition to helping with the social media, the content creation, the business strategy, the execution of our strategic plan, all of those marketing things, is that I wanted to work on our community partnerships and our community outreach and our multicultural marketing, saying we need to be hitting all of those people that don't know about us. Because every single one of the people in that area pay $18 a year to have access to tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of resources that they can personally take home that year. It's only $18.
Yeah.
So I figured, let's let everybody know about all of this and see how we can partner together. So that's what I do every day at the library, and I love it.
That's incredible. And I had no plans on getting into this, but it just popped in my head. So I don't know if you watched John Oliver's show at all.
Yes.
His recent one was on kind of the attacks that are going on libraries right now. Do you have any thoughts and feelings? Have you felt the pressure at all at Bethlehem?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. I'm the communications person. I'm the one that has their phone number on all the press releases and out publicly. So if anybody has an issue or a thought or anything, they call me. And our community is vocal and they let us know how they feel. And I really get everything on the spectrum. I get every spectrum of messages. And I will say that as long as you are being respectful,
right,
and as long as you are going alongside of the guidelines of the library, which is our mission is to provide education, to serve, and not to be biased. But that also means we have to be inclusive. We have to be inclusive. So I get calls on one day. I'll get a call that says, "Hey, I heard that there is, certain type of groups, Moms for Liberty, I believe, and they're saying that you're not supposed to have XYZ events. But I know one of those is coming up. So are you going to cancel it?"
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not canceling that. That's a completely safe event for our children and our youth. I'm not canceling that. And then I'll have some people that say, "Hey, we saw that you're putting out this event for your LGBTQ youth and young teens there. And we're so proud. We're so happy.
Yeah.
We saw all the hate that you guys got online. What can we do to help you? What can we do to protect you and the kids from this?" And we get a little bit of everything. Some people want to come and host an event that maybe I don't personally agree with, but it doesn't hurt anybody.
Right.
And they are welcome to host that event there.
Yeah.
There's some people that want to host an event that I'm all for that other people aren't.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of really great thing. It's your public platform. So I'm going to support anything as long as it's inclusive, as long as it goes along our guidelines.
I love that. And I feel like having now uncovered some of your iceberg, you're the perfect person for that. Like you are the person who can kind of stand up and make sure that the community is being represented the best way possible.
Yeah. We have over 1,000 events a year.
Wow.
I cannot attend each one.
Right.
And there's some that I don't understand. There's some that I really don't quite get. I'm like, that's really interesting. But they love it.
Yeah.
And they want that event. And I'm like, I'm not going to not support that event.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything I can to make sure everyone is heard. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt me if someone else is being heard and seen and being given a platform. It doesn't hurt any of us to make sure that we have that platform for people.
Absolutely. All right. So that was item one. Item two, talk about social media as a whole and the strategy there. I mean, I think with something like, the Bethlehem Area Public Library, it makes a lot of sense to have a social media platform. And, you, like you said, you have hundreds of thousands of people who can access that. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like we are yelling into a void. So as someone's trying to build out their strategy, what would you say to them? What should they be thinking about?
Yeah, this is always like that subject of conversation. Yeah. That is either you're rarely in the middle, you're rarely where you should be, which is at a balanced perspective of understanding both sides of extremes. Most people say, I want to dive in really deep. I want to say whatever I want. I tell it like it is. I have no filter. Whoa, this is a public platform. And this is a public platform probably for yourself or your organization or your business, especially if you don't own the business. Or you'll have somebody that really wants to go all with it. And then the business owners or your director, your boss says, I want to keep this really conservative. No memes, no jokes, all official posts. And I'm like, well, that's not going to do it either. Yeah. So I definitely say that your strategy should be as on brand as possible. What is your brand voice? And not what is the corporate fake brand voice that the higher ups have told you, but how can you create a digital brand voice for each platform that actually is what you at your most authentic self as yourself or your company would like to be. Yeah. Really, that makes up the voices. And usually when we say our brand, we in the past used to say like, our brand is our logo. Our brand is the font that we use. It is the colors that we use. But your brand is the way you do business. The brand is the way you present yourself. The brand is your sense of humor or your values. Yeah. So it's how can you incorporate that? So that's really important. For me, in most places, I'm going to use my brand. I'm going to go for the pillars that are the most connecting. So having a sense of humor, that really connects me. Connecting about family, community, having pets, that really connects. And then the things I feel passionate about. I feel passionate about protecting children. I feel passionate about education, animal rights, protecting our community. Those things I really care about. So I'm going to put those things forward as authentically as I can. Yeah. And then the second thing I will say is trial and error constantly. I don't really care about the algorithm very much. I mean, until you get to the point where the only thing you have left to study is the algorithm, you're really not there yet. When you start doing it professionally or you have a person that can do it full time, the algorithm kind of tends to be a tool that you can work with to help if you're putting out content. You're at the point of 2, 4, 5, 10 pieces of content per day, 7 days a week consistently. And then you can go and review those analytics and make that business or creator profile. And before that, you have to be looking like what really works. It should be a combination of carousels, videos, stories, and engagement. The worst strategic tip, and I'm sure you've seen this, the worst thing you could ever do, social media is I would say it's a great example of what people are doing with your business. If you've ever wanted to work with a business or you need help, maybe you need your house cleaned and you're like, I really need my house cleaned. My wife needs the house cleaned. She needs it cleaned like tomorrow for this party. I'm going to reach out to this cleaning company and reach out to 5 cleaning companies, and you reach out on their forum and they never respond. Nobody ever gets back to you, right? And you're like, well, what's this about?
Yeah.
So standard with most companies that their communication isn't together.
Right.
It's very one-sided. You have to really hunt them down to get in touch with them. Very similar on your social media, that it can be really one-sided. You think you're putting out content and you just schedule it or put it out there, then you go silent. And you like, imagine if you sent someone a message and you said, we need to talk. And then you put your phone in a locker and you left for a year. And they're like, what did that mean? It's so similar when you make content. Content and social media is a way to talk back and forth, to be communicating, to be providing value, to be showcasing, really, ideally, showcasing in every way who you are and what you do. And then you want to deter the people that are not your ideal client or your ideal audience, and you want to attract the right people. And if you're not responding back, if you are not looking in your message request, that's a big one. If you do not look in your message request, if you're not responding to your DMs, if you're not responding to your comments, if you're not posting stories regularly, your social media is probably not going to flop, because that engagement is more important than just likes and views. The engagement rate is looked at right against the amount of likes and views you have. So this is the biggest thing, is like, you have to stay active, do not care about the algorithm, have as much authenticity as possible, and be strategic, but please push boundaries, please push barriers. Please piss people off. No, I'm so serious. I will say this honestly, because I know that people at the library, most of you like me. We kind of pushed out a new campaign, and I told, my boss, I'm like, we're going to do more stuff. And my boss and I, Josh Burke, were like, we're going to push out more, cheeky content and different things like that. So about 6 months ago, we started doing a strategic social media video campaign where we put out series of videos about like having a library cat come into the library and making funnier content and dancing and things like that. And it got a lot of pushback from internally within our own staff. They thought that maybe at first there was a bit of a, change is hard. So they're like, is this really professional? Is this how we want to see ourselves? We haven't done this before. We usually put out a static flyer. We've never done this before. Is this who we are? Right. But then internally, really difficult conversation we have to get on the same page together. Externally, we've never seen higher views. We're going from 300 to 500 views on a video to 5 to 10,000 views on a video. We're going from 1 to 2 comments to 20, 30, 40 comments. We're getting reached out to by Arts Quest, Kids Pete's, St. Luke's, Southside Arts District, the Chamber. Everyone's saying, we've seen the content, we love it. Some organizations reaching out saying, can we start doing collab videos together? So one of the hardest feedbacks we got was that it was a hard change internally, but the community was loving it. It's a hard balance, but I'm always excited to push the envelope. I'm always excited to respectfully and professionally piss people off a little bit to kind of get us towards the 21st century where we need to be. Yeah. I
love that. All right. There's one more thing. Logical leap.
Yes.
As you were talking right there, you brought something up, and I think it's probably relates into this, where you reach out to a company and they don't reach back out. That's something that can almost be automated in a tech stack, which I think leads into Logical Leap. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Logical Leap is a company I co-own with my partner.
Oh,
he just proposed.
Congratulations, man.
Best friend for 8 years. A couple weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Okay, congratulations.
Very romantic.
Aw.
So my partner, he's absolutely brilliant. He's amazing. He went to school for computer science and has spent the past 10 years working in computer science. He's a full-time coder and developer. So he's a full stack developer in a large healthcare system. And so one of the things that we do together is, I've been freelancing in marketing for years. This is kind of how this came about. I've been freelancing in marketing for years. I don't just do marketing and social, but I do digital marketing and just help people build up their tech stacks a little bit, maybe like setting up a project management system here and there. Yeah. Nothing crazy for my clients. I mostly did it all in-house for my full-time positions. And as I started working with people, I started seeing this common thread. It's a very disappointing common thread that people would work with, or large, small, medium, large organizations would work with marketing companies. And there would be some really predatory things that would happen, that they would not own any of their tech stacks. They'd find out they didn't own their website. They find out no messages were talking to each other, or they find out that a bunch of things were built that they were never told about, and that people had been sending them messages all this time and they didn't know. And most of the time, I will say, I do not blame a company. Usually, I will not blame a company if I reach out and they don't respond. They usually aren't getting the message.
Yeah.
That, like, actually, like if I walk outside and shout, I want to talk to Jimmy, you're nowhere near, you're not going to get that message. Versus if it's an appropriate medium where I call you on the phone and your phone number. Yeah. So I was seeing some really crazy things. And an example is we had a client, and I always protect people's anonymity, but we had a client that we were working with that had a well-known marketing company that they were working with that had built out their digital marketing and their website. And their company was growing so much, it was a really great position for them to be in. They decided to take everything in-house. Mm-hmm. And when they went to take everything in-house, that company just turned everything off, turned off all of their revenue was coming in through a system of automations that was working well. They turned off and deleted all of their Google ads, their Facebook ads, their Instagram ads, the copy, their negative keywords list, deleted their GitHub repository completely, deleted their staging site. And they were like, oh, that's what happens. And they were like, we owned those things because we made it. Yeah. So you don't really, it's never in your contracts who owns the tech stack or who has control over the admin console of your tech stack. So they lost all of that, probably lost about $50,000 to $100,000 within a couple of months. Yeah. And we had to build that back up. It took a year to build all of this back because it was a large organization. It took a year to build all of those things back out, including their Stripe account. No, we were able to get back into everything.
Really?
Everything that wasn't permanently deleted. Right. But that was like an emergent situation because it's like the company is running. So we were like, we're good at this. We're really great at communicating. Why don't we do this? And I kind of took a look at that little gap of services, which is that people either really want marketing services, but they don't have a lot of money for it. Yeah. Or they meet with somebody that has a lot of money, but they don't really have the communication to go back and forth. Mm-hmm. Most of the time when you need something, you reach out and you tell a person what you need and they do it. Mm-hmm. And we will tell you your wants and your needs. And that's kind of the difference. We offer free tech stack analysis. So it'd kind of be like if you went to get your car fixed and you knew something was wrong, we didn't know what was wrong. You went to the DMV or the dealership and they said, well, what do you need? You're like, I don't know. You tell me, what do I need? And tell me not like $50,000 worth, but tell me what do I absolutely need? And then what are some wants to maybe do down the line? That's pretty standard. You go to the car dealership and you ask for those things, but it's not really standard in marketing. Because usually people will come to you and say, this is what I need. Right. And a marketing person will just execute that. Right. And instead we say, it's usually not what they need. Mm-hmm. Like we need you to run Google ads. We need you to run this and this. Like actually your organic stuff should be able to take care of that just fine. You actually don't need to spend more money. You only need these 3 things to start and maybe look at that stuff later. So we will offer completely free audits to anyone. Wow. Anyone gets completely free audits. Anyone gets completely free 1-2 free meetings where we will sit down, take a look at their tech stack, give them advice, and then we can build it all up. So on my side, I handle the digital marketing. I will build up your project management, your AI, your Klaviyo, your email marketing, your SMS chatbots, make everything talk and communicate together, make everything work. Yeah. And then on the website or maybe like an online booking site or custom proprietary software, Chandler and his team, he has 3 developers on his team at Logical Leap. They will build that out together. Wow. So he just built a custom software for a healthcare organization. They were at 40 to 60 orders a day. Mm-hmm. He built the custom software on an expedited service in 4 weeks because it was an emergency. And there's another company that had a team of 5 developers that is just as well known. Yeah. And they couldn't do it in 6 months. And he built it in 4 weeks. And they went from 40 to 60 orders to 160 orders a day in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And so that more than doubled their sales. We didn't charge more for that.
Right.
But that's what we built. So just completely custom stuff, and you don't have to wait forever for it. We just get back to you right away.
Yeah. What a 1-2 punch, like the two of you, your skill sets, I mean, combined. I think that's incredible. And I know us personally, like we have a lot of tech.
Yeah.
But they don't integrate, and we don't know how to get them to talk. And I think a lot of small, medium businesses are in that situation.
Yeah. And I'll do it for free. I'll walk around and be like, some people just need you to like check in on occasion.
Yeah.
Just quarterly say, let's just make sure like all the wires are working.
Right.
Some people need help every single day. Most people just need something in the middle where something that meets their budget won't drain them. And I always say like, I shouldn't be making money if you're not. The stuff I set up for you should be making you money.
Yeah. I love that. All right. We are way out of time. This has been amazing. I want to give it up to Hocus Pocus. They are our sponsor. They are a local cleaning service. They're incredible. And we do a little segment for them, which is basically, if you could have any magical ability, what would you have? It's tough. And I can talk about Hocus Pocus while you're thinking.
Please go ahead.
Okay. They can come to your house. They do a witching hour where they will declutter your life and basically like organize everything you need. They also do all the works when it comes to cleaning. They're incredible service. We use them here. We love them. They do corporate. They do personal. It's amazing.
I would say, I mean, everyone says like flying and things like that. If there was some, like a superpower.
Yeah.
I think I already have a superpower, which is anticipating people's needs.
Really?
I'm really excellent personally and professionally at anticipating people's needs, but I can't always fix it immediately. So if I could have the superpower, it would be being able to execute on exactly what a person needs.
That's awesome.
Immediately, like snap of a finger.
Yeah.
You need childcare tonight, it's done, like whatever. And I'm usually able to do it. It just takes more work.
Yeah.
I want to be a professional, like superpower manifester.
Right.
Where it's like, you need $50 to send your kid to the mall this weekend. Done.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think most people, I take a very selfish approach to it and do what would benefit me the most. But you actually took an approach where you would help people around you. Sounds like you're a better person than me.
That's not true.
Before we wrap this up, anything that we didn't hit that you want to hit?
Yes.
Tell me.
Please. Okay. So if there's one thing I could say, it would be that, like, please support your local library.
Yes.
Please support your local library. The Bethlehem Area Public Library is seeking sponsorship and support for our bookmobile. So the bookmobile has been this staple of the community that has driven around for about 3 decades, and it just, delivered its last book, and has gone to the retirement yard, unfortunately. So we are in the process of getting a new bookmobile, and we need sponsors, we need support, we need word of mouth, just media sponsors, people that are willing to talk about the bookmobile and help us, whether it's a $5 or $5,000 donation, get a new bookmobile and energy efficient vehicle that's going to be out there on the streets, delivering books all day, every day. 6-7 days a week. So that's one thing that's really important to take note of.
Well, awesome. I mean, thank you so much. I cannot say how much I have learned and how incredible this has been. You're an amazing person, and I thank you so much for coming on. Absolutely. All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking Podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.